Welcome to The Side Quest, a weekly show on the Grep Beat podcast where we interview interesting people adding to the North Carolina startup community. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome to another episode of The Side Quest. It is the week of August. No, not August, May.
Wow, we're already in August, apparently.
And fourth, a lot of great holidays going on this week. This week, I am still Joe Colopy, the Grep Beat godfather. With me, as always, is Sonali of Primordial. Sonali, how's it going?
It's going great. Had no idea we were in summer already, but I'm excited for that. And happy
August.
Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. It is big. And then the other day we had a May 4th. May the 4th with you. I learned something today while I was driving my youngest daughter into school so she could take some, she had to go in early for some AP tests.
Oh, man.
That I was listening to In the Soup, and then I didn't realize when Jen and Melissa were chatting that there was Revenge of the Sith. Like there's also kind of play there.
Okay.
So yeah,
it's a Star Wars week. There you go.
It is a Star Wars week. Listening to Grep Beat podcast. So,
Joe, quick note before
Let's
we do dive in. I love that you have a Carolina hat on, but the shirt you're wearing, I do think that resembles a Duke blue. I might be wrong, but that feels pretty Duke
I've got
blue
three different blues on, so it's kind of hard. Right. And actually won't argue, like, yes, it's more the light blue that is the Carolina blue. So I'm just wearing a lot of blue.
Yeah.
So in my previous house, we had like a very small laundry room, and it was a concrete floor and regular walls, right? And so we had the floor painted in like Duke blue, but the walls are painted in Carolina blue.
Wow.
So every time we go in there, we could like stomp on Duke.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it was really the extra paint that I had left in the house. So I just told that story.
That's a great story that you did not need to tell.
Yes, there we go. Thanks, Joe. All there. All right. So obviously we're having an amazing conversation about the variations of blue. But I think what might be more interesting is to bring on our guest for this week, Eric Boduch of 24 and Up, Pendo co-founder, and many other things. Without further ado, let's bring on Eric and learn about his favorite color choices.
Thanks, Joe. I think maybe I'm wearing Kansas blue. Is this Kansas blue? I don't know. A little too light, maybe.
You've got a lot of blue going on too.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe it is Kansas blue.
This is why you want to listen and watch our video podcast on YouTube versus the audio podcast, because you won't be able to get and understand all the inside jokes we have going on here, and also realize that Sonali is not wearing any blue.
No blue, no blue. I bleed it. I bleed blue. That's all I got to say.
There we go. There'd be a little blue behind you.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
It's all good. It's all good. So Eric, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Joe. Sonali.
Yeah.
Are you in? So last week I kind of swung by your office or the office of 24 and Up and Revcast and other places, and I assume 531.
Yeah.
Is that where you are now?
Yeah, in the office.
That's what we do.
So yeah, you can see a little of the view.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wow, it's incredible. And Eric, you're based in Raleigh, right?
Based here in Raleigh, downtown Raleigh, right next to Videri Chocolate. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, great place.
And black and white coffee.
Okay.
Can't forget that. Yeah.
So, Eric, we want to hear kind of like all about kind of what you're doing, but sometimes it's valuable to know people's genesis story, origin story. Yeah, that's good. So how did you find your way from like little Eric to big Eric doing what you're doing now?
There was a spider that bit me at some point.
Radioactive?
I don't think it was radioactive. I don't remember getting any powers from it. Maybe a little bump, an itchy bump, but that was really about it.
Maybe you just you haven't realized your powers yet.
Yeah, maybe they're still coming. I'm waiting. Let me know if you see anything.
So in terms of the office you're in now and 24 and Up, not everyone knows what 24 Up is about. And maybe you could talk a little bit about um, what it is and when you started it and what your focus is.
Sure. We started a few years ago when I left Pendo. So we're working on kind of our third full year of 24 and Up now. What 24 and Up is a venture studio. So we co-create companies with entrepreneurs. So think of us as an unpaid co-founder. It's a good way to think about it.
Well,
We
it's
have a
like
team
most
of
co-founders,
six.
basically.
Well, even after they have funding, we're still
Oh, okay.
unpaid.
Still
Yeah, we're one of those unpaid co-founders. We like, very hands-on. We help people find first customers, build that ideas. I mean, we'll go from it in order. We help people, prototype, test new ideas, build that first version of the product, find first design partners and customers, and then go out and raise funding. We're usually involved with companies for 24 months, hence the name 24 and Up. Yeah. I didn't even think about it as video today, but I am wearing a hat for one of the studio companies, 531
Okay.
Social, Darren McKee.
Yeah. Well, we want to learn more about that. So in terms of venture studios, we've talked about this endlessly, but
Yeah.
I've looked into them a bit over the years, and, we don't have so much of the venture studio model here in North Carolina, but is more common perhaps in some other regions of the country. One, is that true? And have you seen many of them more so on the West Coast?
Um, let's see. I think, I'm trying to think if there's more on the West Coast. I mean, there's more venture on the West Coast, and therefore I think there's probably more venture studio, more startups. And
Yeah.
proportionally, though, I think we're about, normal. I think there is another one here, or maybe a small one, or small venture studio like entity here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
There's one that an old FDA commissioner is doing in Chapel Hill. I forget the name of it. It's just studio like, very similar, doing biotech stuff. I mean, and I think they're done pretty well. I think they're kind of under the radar, for the area, but do a lot of cool work in the biotech space. But yeah, I think there's, venture studios are probably evenly dispersed, similar to venture capitalists. And a lot of it just really depends on where the partners or the CEOs of the studio are, that concentration.
Do you find your studio has a certain level of focus on a particular domain? Do you find yours kind of focuses on a particular domain based on what you're into, what you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think studios. Well, if I was going to say what a studio really needs to be successful, it probably should be started by a past operator. Because unlike VCs, we're not just writing checks; we're operating with the entrepreneur. We're helping them build a company. So I think it's essential that the studio is made up of people that have built before, done it before, gone from zero to product market fit, so to speak, before. I think that's an important part of it. As far as our particular thesis area and focus, and we tend to focus on areas where we have particular strengths. Coming from Pendo and doing stuff in B2B enterprise software before, that's an area of my strength is, enterprise software on the business to business side. So the studio tends to follow that. I mean, I've hired people that have come out of that space. So we tend to go after, enterprise B2B, which for us is pretty heavily AI these days. It's just the other cool thing. I mean, I remember doing AI back in college at Carnegie Mellon. Shout out to my alma mater. No blue there, but Target.
There we go. Tartan's.
That is. Yeah. I mean, I know what it is, but Target.
I forgot to share with you. I wrote a paper. It was an English class. I think it was 1987 or 88 in high school about artificial intelligence, and I had to kind of go to the library and put it all together. It's very interesting how things were looked at then, and then later on in college took a course, but it's nowhere near what it is today. And I actually have a bit of a frustration with AI right now. So I struggled over the weekend to set up OpenClaw on an Ubuntu AWS instance. And I'm still in weird configuration hell about that. But I hooked it up to the Claude API and put like $50 on it. And I've done very little with it. And it's blown through my $50. And I don't know Wow. At all. And it's a little
Hey
bit
man, they
scary,
have to
but
pay for lots of data centers and GPUs and other things.
I'm just
so
like, I don't
gotta
know
do
what's
your part.
happening. So I set up more than you want to know, but I basically set up the Google API to read off my calendar and email. And I wasn't exactly sure how to get working because it's a little clunky. And yeah, I immediately turned that off because like if I don't know how the $50 is going out the door, I'm sure not gonna want to think about what it's doing to the Google API.
Eric, I'm really curious, just given all of your experience across different companies and, obviously the crazy growth of Pendo and your work now 24 and up and all the different companies that come out of the studio. I had a conversation once with a VC who told me that pattern matching was the worst thing that any VC could do. I remember asking her about like, what is, obviously there's no secret sauce, but like, what would you, almost say the secret sauce was? And so I brought up like, okay, like, is it pattern matching? Like, what is it? And she was like, pattern matching is the worst possible thing you can do at a VC. I don't know how much of that I agree with, but I do think that there is a solid mix of pattern recognition. Obviously, it accrues. You're seeing all these different founders. You've been a founder yourself. You see some of that. But then a large part of that is that like big contrarian bet. How would you balance the two of them? Is there one that hasn't even been put in the picture yet that you'd like to address? But like, how do you balance those two things now, especially in a studio model?
Wow. There's a lot there we can unpack.
There's a lot. That's a complex question. Now I'm asking about favorite shades of blue, and you're going off and asking like questions.
I really want to get
that red tartan, like Nancy State red back there somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think that's an interesting question. There's a lot to talk about there. Let's talk about pattern matching a little bit for a second. When we were in kind of the golden era of SaaS, right? That involved that kind of the pattern that people were looking for was that triple, double, like triple your revenue again, or triple your ARR, triple your ARR again, double it. And so I think VCs who had seen that pattern enough in their portfolio company could make a lot of very useful suggestions like, oh, now's a great time to hire recruiters, or you really understaffed on sales, or, pricing is too low, all of those kind of things. And I think pattern matching was very important then because you're trying to replicate a pattern that in playbook that's worked before. And frankly, a lot of the underlying plays, so to speak, and approaches and patterns probably didn't vary that much from a high level between different portfolio companies in a venture capitalist portfolio. So I think pattern matching was really cool then and was a very powerful tool. And the more you saw, the more you're likely to pick other successful companies or see the hints of success and bet on those things. I think AI has kind of thrown everything up, right? Like it's like, now all the playbooks have changed, the patterns have changed, what we invest in has changed. An understanding of what's really a moat has changed. And I think to your other VC's point in today's world, if you haven't seen enough patterns to make judgment on it, it becomes very, very difficult. And if anything, pattern matching can be a big negative. And maybe the point he or she was trying to make was that, now today, relying on past patterns may lead to very, very different results and results you don't want to see.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think also, I guess on that pattern matching note, so much of the uncertainty now is, the uncertainty is everywhere. I feel like investors and founders are flailing a little bit in the sense of like, what are we tethering ourselves to? Like, what are the business metrics? What are, like, for example, the equivalent like rule of 40s that we're tethering ourselves to in an environment like this where now AI has completely changed what outcomes could look like and made the market so asymmetric, where I feel like almost now investors are trying to pattern match. And to your point, failing at that because things are moving at such an unprecedented rate. I guess on the studio side of things, you're probably, so much of it is like distilling ideas down to, okay, we're killing this one. We're gonna pursue this one. We're compressing like time to insight. Like, how are you thinking about how to evaluate the right idea now in a venture studio in this environment?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult environment. I think some of the strengths we have is that we're really capable of understanding, can what someone's thinking about building, can we build it, right? Can it be built? Can it be built effectively? And then how easy is it to build? I think based on our background, because we tend to be, we're a heavy engineering, i.e. software development, product design studio, because that's the first thing you really have to do. Always build a product before you can sell a product, generally. Not always, I guess. Because we're oriented that way, I think one of the advantages we have is being able to understand is something easy to replicate. That knowledge doesn't always transfer directly to all the VCs, so sometimes that can be hard to communicate. So I mean, we look at things and we have a rubric we'll go through, and we'll evaluate, is this a company we want to pursue? And that rubric probably needs to be updated a little bit now that I think about it, as we continue to learn more and more about the AI space and how the major foundational models, Anthropic, OpenAI, et cetera, influence the market as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think such a muddled space right now, and I think one of the opportunities and challenges is with AI, particularly relatively easy to use APIs, despite my OpenClaw challenges, is that it makes certain things that were very challenging to do and pretty big blockers, say like even 5-10 years ago, very easy to do, right? And so a lot of folks quickly can whip things up. But the challenge is anyone can really whip that up, and including existing companies. So it's really sometimes difficult to see what if that's no longer a differentiator and it makes it easy for you, it's kind of easy for everybody. So then what are the new moats or the new real differentiators in terms of getting stuff off the ground and being successful?
There's maybe a paradox there. Maybe there's some irony. I don't know. We could probably throw a couple different words in it. You think about this, if it's really easy to build, yet if you go to a lot of the most well-known venture capitalists, which are predominantly in San Francisco, they still tend to veer towards highly technical founders.
Do you think that's because it's easy to build something? Right? When you think about that, it's easy to build something. It's hard to build well. And
I think that's true. I think that's very true. I also think it's harder to build something that is well built from an engineering perspective still.
Yeah.
So I think there's two sides maybe to that statement you made, Joe, is that it's really important to build the right thing. I think people have started talking about it as or have been for a while, I guess, talking about it as product taste, product chops, or however you want to call that. And so there's the what to build and why are you building it? And then there's the how well you build it. And I think both of those things required a different skill set to some extent. I mean, there's some overlap between product people and developers. But I think those two areas are still extremely important, even with AI tools supporting them. And really, AI tools don't do a good job of supporting product managers at all. They don't do a good job of supporting what to build, at least not yet.
And I guess
I think they do a good job of supporting, developers, supporting coders. But at the same time, I don't think it removes the need for super high quality engineering talent.
Definitely. And I think on the consumer AI side, obviously, I can go into Claude right now and create a dashboard of my own and vibe code projects that can be of use to me. But on that enterprise AI side, or even just broadly, when you look at a scalable AI company, it has to be interoperable. It has to have the right technical architecture. It has to pass security reviews and pilots. There is a higher level of tech expertise and caliber that is required to scale those startups. And I think that's probably why those highly technical founders are still in such high demand. Because once you solve the product side of the equation, what's left is distribution and trust building and selling through networks. And ultimately, a lot of those VC firms and SF are just they're built to help founders with that in a way. So I don't know if that sort of.
Well, I think one of the neat things about SaaS companies, if you think traditional SaaS, is they're not just products, they're also methodologies and they're kind of ways of doing things. And I know when we were building Bronto, we were particularly focused on what we call commerce marketers. And as much as we made things possible, we also kind of implied through our product design, like the way to do things, right? Or a way of doing things. And that I think comes back to your point, Eric, of it's really the rise of the product manager. Like it's all important, but now that certain ways of building, and I do think the engineering starts mattering, but what becomes even relatively more important, especially at the prototyping phase, is like, what are you going to build? Why are you going to build it? Who's this going to serve? And so I would think that comes back to me, that more the product manager domain and having really insightful product managers and product designers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people early on with AI are like, we're at the death of the product manager. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
No.
I think we're in the golden age of product management.
Yeah. So to that end,
expertise is super important. Product management skills, super important.
So when you started, so how long have you been doing 24 and up, roughly?
We're into year 3. I mean, you can pick a start. It's hard to pick an actual start date when we hire our first person, when we're fully scaled up. But let's say we started, December of 2022, January 2023 is probably good.
So even within that span of time, there's been so much movement within the mainstream AI providers in terms of what they can do. And given that you're a build-centric venture studio, how do you look like your teams for building products? How has that evolved only within, we're talking about less than a 3.5 year time frame.
Yeah. I mean, I think design and product become more of a bottleneck than engineering. It used to be engineering was the bottleneck, like how quickly can you build product? And now we're doing some things that would take 6 months and a day or two, right? Just because of the complexity of them. But then product management becomes a bottleneck. Design becomes a bottleneck. There's a lot more tools coming out now to help design, and designers are in some ways, for better or worse, often getting pulled into coding. I think by half the time by themselves, like they're like, oh well, instead of just doing the Figmas, I can actually write the code. And anyway, I think bottlenecks move to design and product and away from actually writing code. So.
Yeah, it definitely is changing. So in the studio, in the last 3.5 years, you all built a number of different things, and part of building is trying and seeing what works and what doesn't work, right? And learning from that and having tight feedback loops. What are so people have a good flavor for the type of companies and startups and products you guys are all focused on? What is kind of a sample of some of the things you guys are working on or have built so far?
Yeah, no, I can take you through some of them.
Let's do it.
Start with 531 because I guess that's in my head. Social selling platform. So we worked with the guy Darren McGee, who's well-known influencer, content person in social selling, and took him and built an AI version of him. That was kind of the first version of the product. Was like have Darren at your fingertips as opposed to paying for him as a consultant. Ask him questions about how you're selling, how you're approaching social. And that evolved to, we'll help you, we'll grade your content. We'll help you make your content better. We'll help you put together, approaches for going after an account. And then that evolved into where it is today, which is more of a platform where you can put together sequences and plays for your account. Sequences, I think, is a bad word. Plays is probably a better word. An order of how you want to break into, GM, who you're reaching out to, what you're saying, and help you build that reusable muscle, and then replicate that across multiple accounts. So it's almost like, a sales methodology that now is AI infused and it's making you do it, 5 times faster than you would have otherwise, and holding you accountable for what you do. So it's 531. We have a company, Troop, that just got funded a little bit ago from Co-Founders Capital.
Congratulations.
That's public here. I don't know that we've ever announced it.
So you're looking over. Do you have a general counsel who's like screaming at you, like, you can't say that?
I think the co-founders people have been telling everybody. So, at least in this, Raleigh area, I think everyone pretty knows about that.
Yes. Awesome.
And what they do is help you become better storytellers and enforce storytelling throughout your enterprise. And one of the struggles in growing a company is how do you consistently tell the same story as the founder? How does that scale go up, right? And Troop helps you do that, helps you know what messaging and stories are working, which ones aren't consistent, that salespeople aren't consistently telling the right story to the right people at the right time, all the way down to like landing pages that are out of date and using old story or old messaging or old content. That's, you see some similarities on kind of, very AI focused businesses here. We have another one that is just about to launch called Outplacer, moving kind of more to a vertical offering where it's a platform. You could call it a CRM, you could call it an operating system for agencies and career coaches. So we help them use AI to run their business, help them be able to work with more job applicants by using AI to do things like coaching, resume customization by job, all that kind of cool stuff, all the way down to finding new leads and opportunities for them to go after for clients. So you can think of that's definitely a vertical offering specifically for outplacers of some kind. And then Originals Revcast, on the revenue side of the house, RevOps, which is morphing to more of an agent-based system where you can just ask the system like, hey, where are my risks this quarter? What am I behind on? And then the system, more importantly, probably will proactively tell you, and like, hiring's behind, putting Q2 at risk, or, you guys are needing more coverage, quota coverage in order to hit your numbers, all that stuff, just pushing it out to whether it's an FP&A person or a revenue person. Let's see, what else is exciting? Wayfound Agent Observability. That one's based out in San Francisco, where we help people. I mean, my favorite application of that is in chat, because everyone's AI chat is pretty bad. And you're like, don't these people read what I say and fix it? And more often than not, they never do. So Wayfound's an agent that'll actually sit on top of your agents and see if they violate guidelines, see where people are struggling, see what questions people are asking. So it's that observability layer for more business and product oriented people.
So if I'm in an AI chat and I want to escalate to the manager, do I get escalated to your AI?
We're not a support system, but what it does is it captures all of those things that go awry. So like we used it at 531. It was one of the reasons and not just awry, it just captures like aberrations, so to speak, things that you're not expecting. And what we noticed with 531 early on is like, we decided not to help people write content. We're always like, oh, you can figure out your own content. But we found in chat was people were always like, hey, what do you think of this post? Darren AI, right? Our AI chat version of Darren, and Darren would be like, oh, I'm really helping you put together methodologies and approach and more of a sales trainer. I'm not working on content. And then we got to the point where so many people are asking us for just help and advice and criticism of their content that we're like, we should just build that. And 531 Wayfound helped us find that. It would have taken us forever to find it on our own, just looking through all those messages. But we saw a distinct pattern going back to what Sonali was talking about, because the agent showed it to us. It would be really hard to have done unless you read every single message, every single day. It would have definitely been tough.
It's something that's like, it's almost like you don't think about it that intuitively, where with AI agents and the increased use of AI agents, so much of that like customer conduit is between a customer and an agent now versus a customer and a human. And so it's like so much of that like really rich feedback data and like just like interfacing with a customer gets possibly lost in a black box of sorts. But with something like Wayfound, and I'm sure, as the AI agent space matures even more, we'll like gather insights in a cool new way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think we're going to take a lot of that repetitive work, and agents are definitely going to perform it. And that's a great use case. I mean, everyone who has chat should implement some kind of observability to understand what their users are doing, what they're asking, what they're trying to do, and making sure they don't go off the rails. Now, obviously, Wayfound can do more complicated things than that, but I think a lot of the early usage of AI has been in chat-based interfaces and continues to be. So it's a great example of a problem that everyone should do, whether they use Wayfound to do it or, try to hand code things themselves, or listen to all the message. I think Jason Lemkin at Saster was talking about like everyone needs to listen to every single or read every single interaction, for at least the first month. It's hard. I mean, should you do it? Sure. You should look at a lot of them, and then you should use tooling to make it easier.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You shouldn't stop at a month, right? You learn a lot, but what you learn is going to change quite often. So I think products like Wayfound have a cool future.
So Eric, so folks out there in the kind of listening and watching community have a better idea of how they might connect with 24 and up. With these two things, really, with these startups, did you all build them first and then get the team and the leader? Did you kind of have a leader first and then kind of built around that person based on something they already had or some ideas? Were they entrepreneurs that kind of already had it and kind of came to you and you guys developed it out? What was the right mix? And then to leave us for, our relatively short show is, what type of things would you want to know the community out there, the listeners and the watchers to know, so that they know how they could work with 24 and up?
Yeah. To answer your first question, some of them were ideas we've developed and others that entrepreneurs had and brought them to us. If we developed an idea, we usually try to recruit someone who has strong domain space expertise in that area. It's been about a 50-50 split-ish between those two areas.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We're willing to work in both environments. I mean, really the important thing. Yeah. I mean, it has to be an idea we can add value to, right? I mean, we're not going to do something in health tech, or we're not going to do something that sells to the government, in large part just because, well, the bar would be really high there. And if I'm the entrepreneur, I'm like, well, how much can you help me there? And we can help them build, but we don't have connections. We've never run a company that sold to the federal government. So we tend not to do those because we don't think our value exchange is as high as in others. As far as how people can reach out to me or interact with 24 and up, we throw a happy hour. I say we try to throw it every 3 months. It tends to be every 4. Where we just invite entrepreneurs in the area that want to come hang out with other entrepreneurs. There's usually about 60, 70 people here. I hope it'll be 100 this next time. It's been growing the last few. I think last might have been 80 signups. That's an easy way to reach us. And then I'm the only Eric Boduch on LinkedIn, which is kind of odd. So
there you go.
They can always just connect with me and send me a message. My LinkedIn inbox is a little ugly, but I do catch most of them, 90-something% probably. So there's always that. And then, those are the best ways.
No, that makes sense. Well, cool. Well, we're, the purpose of the SideQuest is to kind of feature interesting people doing interesting things that kind of affect our tech ecosystem in North Carolina. And you're certainly one of those people. And I really like the idea of startup studios and venture studios, because I think we do a lot of things to celebrate early stage entrepreneurship. But sometimes I like seeing things that put more things at the top of the funnel, more interesting ideas, particularly if they're truly innovative and they're kind of build centric. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. So,
well, it sounds like, Joe, you should join us at the studio. Maybe start a company with us.
Yeah. Well, there's always, like I said, if I can get this OpenClaw working, maybe I can AI Joe.
I can definitely help you there.
My regular life, and then I can kind of do this. So, anyways, thank you very much for joining us, Eric. It's always a pleasure. I know I'm going to see you really soon, and we will see you more around in terms of the GrepBeat community.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric.
Thanks, Joe. It was great. Yeah. Hopefully this was valuable for everyone out there. Give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Be sure to follow us through your favorite podcast platform. Now get back to working on your side quest